Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design, and I just wanted to take a few minutes here to show you the two new stoves I told you I'd be putting in the store. It's cold out here, so I'm going to do this as quick as possible. It's late in the day, and I was out here this morning building SS2s, but it's cooled down. It's afternoon now. So anyway, one of the stoves is the Bomatic 2. Now, what I did with this was, if you remember, the original Bomatic had a lot taller can, and then this pot stand slid down onto it and indexed onto it, and you take it out, flip it over, and all that. It wasn't as big around a pot stand, so it wasn't as stable. And the big thing was that the stove was a lot taller, so it was a lot closer to the heat, and this silicone was a lot shorter. So the stove being closer to the heat tended to heat up faster. So what I did was I made this can, a newer can, made it a lot shorter and a lot bigger around, which gives me a lot bigger pot stand and puts the can a lot further from the heat, so it doesn't overheat nearly as fast as the original. In fact, I don't think it'll overheat at all. It's got the vent in it like the original, and you can actually fill it through that vent, or you can, oh, and there's another thing here too. You can also just take the bottom off, fill it, and then put the top back on. But another big factor for going this way is the original, this screwed on and it had plastic threads in it. And I don't know on how many occasions people overheated it and melted the threads, and then it wouldn't screw together anymore. So this one doesn't have any threads. It's a press fit. So if you fill it up and then put it on, you're all set to go. If you want to add more, you can right through that vent hole, or you can pop the top off and fill it, put it back together. But this will burn a half an hour. So as far as baking goes, one fill is going to work for basically anything you're going to do. I guess you could even put a remote in there if you wanted to. So anyway, that's the Bomatic 2 in a nutshell. Okay, this next one kind of makes me laugh a little bit. I had a gentleman request that I make him a choke hazard without the holes in the base for the tube to go into. And what he said he was doing was he was plugging the hole and then just filling the original choke hazard, which is pretty short, with alcohol, and just using it for one burn with what alcohol he could get in it to like heat coffee and stuff. So I built that for him. He was happy with it. And I got thinking about the idea and happened to be on the internet just Googling around and happened to stumble onto the Gnome. I used to make a stove called the Gnome, G-N-O-M-E, a long time ago. Back before carbon felt, it was filled with fiberglass, which was problematic. And it was fairly short. So what I decided to do was to take a Gnome design and make it taller and fill it with carbon felt. And it turns out that it was a good idea, because you fill this up with alcohol and this burns like 20 minutes and puts out the same heat as an original choke hazard. So it definitely has its place, and it's cheap, $10 stove. So yeah, that to me is a good idea. You know, fill this up with a small pot, you know, Snow Peak 700 or an ATP or QMH, something like that, and this holds enough fuel to boil water a couple of times, maybe more than that, with one fill. So anyway, that's the two stoves, the Bomatic 2 and the Gnome. And I'll put those in the store in the next few days, and life will be good. I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design. Try to have a really great day, and try to have some fun today. You deserve it. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, one more thing. Somebody asked what's the difference between, let me see if I can get this right, the super cap and the gravity cap. Okay, in a nutshell. First off, neither one of them fit the heat bottle. I don't make any cap that fits the heat bottle anymore because there's two heat bottles, one distinctly different from the other thread-wise, So no matter which one you get, you may get the right one, you may get the wrong one. So I quit selling it. So that's one thing right up front they asked that. Second thing is the gravity cap. There's no need to use it with a snorkel stove because it does the same thing as a snorkel. It just keeps the fuel from being pulled back into the bottle. Because the gravity cap, you don't squeeze the bottle, you just hold it up, has a vent, the air goes in, the fuel comes out, goes to the stove. When the stove gets full, you put the bottle down. There's no back vacuum and the stove stays full. With the super cap, you have a ring in the middle to wrap your line around and a place to lock it to store your fuel line. When you unstore it, screw it onto a 4 1/8 ounce bottle, put it up, fill your stove, snorkel stove, and when it gets to the top of the snorkel, you'll let off of it and it'll pull air back in. But because it's a snorkel stove and it's pulling from the top of the snorkel, it won't pull the fuel out of the stove. If you're using a non-snorkel stove, then it will, and you want a gravity cap. So, capping my explanation, if you're running a snorkel stove, super cap works great. If you're running a non-snorkel stove that you're remotely feeding with a nipple cap, the gravity cap works great because it doesn't pull fuel back into the bottle. If that was just as clear as mud, let me know. Bye-bye.